Welcome to another edition of Mob County Metal Detectors. We are going to talk a little bit about coins today. We have people asking us about the coins we find, and we throw out a lot of slang terms like merc and barber, and so we're going to kind of show you what's out there that we're finding, and this is just a very minute amount of what really is out there in the way of coinage. Any comments, Katie?
We tried to pick some of the best coins we have, whether we've purchased or found them, that had the best details so that you can see what we're talking about. So hopefully when you watch our other videos, if you can't see the coin very well, now you'll have an idea of what it looks like. Some of them are really worn or dirty when we find them.
Alright, so we're going to start out with pennies. And the common penny today, we call them zinkers. So when you hear us talk about zinc coins, it's like the Lincoln Memorial, usually a shinier coin. It has a picture of Lincoln on the front, and when you go to the back, you'll find a shield. And I was talking with another metal detectorist not very long ago, and he said, you know, when those coins are in the ground, they aren't going to be around very long because they just deteriorate. And I tried to clean some one day. It doesn't work out. It just gets holes in them. They aren't made to last very long. What were the years they made those, Katie?
82 to present has more zinc content. 82 is the last year that they had more copper.
Okay, and then we're going to look at the common Lincoln Memorial penny, which is what most people think of when they think of a penny. It's got Lincoln on the front, and on the back it has a picture of the memorial. And that is probably one of the most common pennies out there. And they made those from what years?
59 to 2009.
59 to 2009. Before that, you would say the penny was about the same thing. It's also a Lincoln penny. And the front looks the same, but when you go to the back, we talk about Wheaties. This is what a Wheatie is. And I don't know if you can see it or not. There are grains of wheat on the back on each side of the coin, and that's what we call a Wheatie. And they came along after the Indian head penny and went from 1909 to 1958.
I do have the dates and stuff pulled up on here to make sure we get them right for you guys too.
Okay. In the middle of all that, during the Second World War, they have pennies that we called Steelies. And they look the same, but they're a silver look. And they were made in 1943. Well, mainly 43 and 44. This one actually is a 45, I believe.
No, it's not.
Is it not?
It's a 43.
It is a 43. Okay. So 43 and 44. But anyway, if you find the right year of those, which would be a 44 Steely like this, they're worth a lot of money.
Or a 43 copper.
Yeah, or if you find a 43 that looks like the regular Lincoln cent, you've probably got about a $100,000 coin on your head. So take care of it. All right, so that pretty much is the Lincoln pennies. Before we had the Lincoln pennies, up to 1909, we had the Indian head. And I hope you can see that. When you hear us talk about found an Indian, that's what it is. One of my favorite coins, I told the story in our first video of my dad, where he grew up. He'd go out in the sand draw, and Indian heads and buffalo nickels would wash down. Well, that's what he was finding, and I've still got them. Then on the back of that coin, it says 1 cent, and it has a wreath on it. And the top of the wreath, I'd say it looks like the Union Pacific sticker, but anyway, that's what you'll find when you find an Indian. First year they made those was
1859.
1859 to 1909. And dropping back to the Lincoln Memorial pennies, the Wheatie version of that, if you find a 1909, which was the first year they were made, and you find the initials VDB on it, you've got a pretty valuable coin there also. Okay. Then before the Indian head, and there are versions of Indian heads, well, there's some they call fatties. I believe those were back in the 1870s. and they're a lot thicker coin. You find one of those, you'll go, what is the deal with this? Anyway, before that, they had what we call the flying cent. We've never pulled one out of the ground, but it has a flying eagle on the front of it. And when you look at the back of it, it is very similar to the Indian head. It has a 1 cent on it with a wreath around it. So it looks very much alike to the Indian head, but it doesn't have that shield on top of it quite the same. So a lot of times if you see one of us sitting there and we're looking at it trying to say, I think it's an Indian, we might be wondering, could be a flying cent too. If it's got a little corrosion on it, you don't know. And what year were those made?
1856 to 1858.
Okay, 1856 to 1858. Before that, we had what we called large cents, and the only ones we have, we've never found one. They're a bought and coin, but they were pretty common, but they were big. You get a grasp of the size difference. And the ones that we have are coronet braided hairs. There are different versions of this. And what were the years on those?
The years on the coronet braided hair are 1839 to 1857.
Okay, 1839 to 1857.
But large cents as a whole, all the different varieties are from 1793 to 1857.
Okay. An interesting little fact that goes along with this, and a coin that you have not seen us find, and you don't see them found very often, is what we call a 3-cent silver. And it is small, very small. Has kind of a shield on the front and a star on the back. And it is a silver coin, and it is worth 3 cents. When the Postal Service went from 1 cent postage to 3 cent postage stamps, you had to carry around 3 of these to buy 1 stamp, which is kind of a hassle. So the mint came up with this to take its place, the 3-cent silver coin. And how many years did they make those?
Let's see, because they also, after that, they had the 3-cent nickel. So 51 to, I gotta go through all the types, 73. 1851 to 1873 are the 3-cent silvers.
3-cent silvers. And how about the 3-cent nickels?
1865 to 1889.
And we do not have any of those. Well, after we get through 3-cent silvers, we're going to take a look at nickels. And when we think of nickels, we think of 5 cents. And today we have the Jeffersons. They've got some variations on them, but generally has Monticello on the back, I believe is what that is. And anyway,
you're right. It says it right here.
I thought
Jefferson's
that's what it was.
famous home in Virginia.
Yep, on the back. And those nickels were made from what?
1938 to date.
Okay.
Has Jefferson on the front, although the design is a little different.
So they haven't changed much. Before that, everybody talked about the buffalo nickel. And it had a buffalo on the back with a Native American on the front. And those are a coin my dad really liked, and I do too. The buffalo nickel is a really neat coin. And they didn't really change too much all the years they made them, from
1913 to 1938. So if you hear us say it's a buff, short for buffalo nickel.
Okay. And the other one you hear us talk about, or Katie talk about, she pretty regularly nails these, we call them a V nickel. And if you look at the back of the coin, it's got a V on it. When you go to the front, what would you say that is?
Well, they call
Lady
it,
Liberty?
They call it a Liberty Head nickel. So.
Yeah, Liberty Head nickel or a V nickel. We always call them a V nickel. And they go from what years?
1883 to 1912. But there were a couple mistakenly minted in 1913 when they were supposed to switch to buffalo nickels, and if you find one of those, you've got a very expensive coin on your hands.
As in millions of dollars. They're really rare. Coin collector doesn't have one and you got one. You've got something pretty special. Okay, before they had the V nickel, they have what we call a shield nickel. And I don't have a great example of this. It has a shield on the back of the coin. And then when you go to the front, it has a 5 on it for 5 cents, obviously. And what were the years on the Shield nickels?
1866 to 1883.
Okay. And before that, I don't really... Did we have nickels, or did we have the half dimes?
They used half dimes.
Half dimes, which was a silver version of the dime, and we'll get to that in just a minute here. But anyway, right now, when we're going to talk about dimes, we have the Roosevelt dimes, which you guys have those in your pocket all the time. They're usually pretty shiny. When you look at the side of them on the new dimes, you'll actually see the copper lacing through the coin. If you pick up, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, if you put a silver dime next to a clad dime, you will see a difference. You'll see pure silver as compared to the other. It's 90, what percent?
90%.
90% silver. But anyway, that's on the back of those. It has the torch with the leaves on it.
And from 1946 to 1964, those were also 90% silver.
Yep, and we do find that. So if you hear us throw out the term "found a Rosie," and it's silver, it's a Roosevelt dime is what it is. And it will not have that copper running through it. It will be the 90% silver dime, and you won't see that. Before that, we had the Mercury dimes, which...
Winged Liberty.
Winged
Head
Liberty,
dimes, the
yeah.
official name.
Yep, some of them just thought it looked like the god Mercury, so that's what they called them. Anyway, that's what's on the front of them, and you'll hear us throw out the term Merc. That's what we're talking about. On the back of it, I'll let you see what that is. Hopefully you guys can see some of that. Probably getting some glare. Some of these are still in plastic. Okay, then before the Mercury dime, you'll hear us...
Did they want the dates?
Okay, yeah, the dates of the...
1916 to 1945.
Okay, 16 to 45. And you'll hear us throughout the term, it's a barber. Well, this is a barber dime. And that's what the front of the barber dime looks like. And the guy isn't a barber on the front of it, sorry. It's a
Liberty Head dime.
Yeah, Liberty Head.
That's the name of the designer, I believe.
Yep, the name of the designer was Barber. And so that's what it is. On the back, you'll see it says 1 dime. And those were made from
1892 to 1916,
Yep.
which if you've seen a recent video of ours where we were at the Old Ball Diamond and he found an 1892 barber, that's why I said he just missed a seated, because
Yep.
that was the first year that barbers were made.
And that's what we're going to talk about next, the seated Liberty dime. And when we were talking about the half dime, they also were a seated Liberty. And the half dimes we have not found.
For some years.
Yeah, for some years. But anyway, that's a seated Liberty. And that is the coin that we've been trying to find and have not come up with yet. On the back, it has the 1 dime, just like the one I showed you before. And what were the years on those?
1837 to 1891. And some of the other coins we've talked about, there were slight variations throughout the years that we haven't talked about. But seated Liberties are one that are notorious for being multiple varieties depending on the year they were minted.
And they are really a neat coin. Something that I have not found one yet. That's one of the things on my bucket list. And when we get beyond that, we start talking about capped busts and other coins, and some of these,
flowing hair.
and some of these coins, which I guess I should have grabbed my flowing hair silver dollar, but I didn't. But anyway, like the seated Liberty, we're showing you a seated Liberty dime. There are also seated Liberty quarters and seated Liberty halves. And so some of these designs went to different things. And there are some of these coins you'll also find out, we'll say we can't get a date off of them. The Buffalo nickel is one that's notorious for being wore down so thin you can't read the date on them. And we're going to hit another coin here in a minute that some of the first ones of those were that way. We're going to go to quarters next. And the first quarter we're going to talk about is the Washington quarter. And it is just a common quarter that you have in your pocket. Some of them have the states on the back. They've made changes on them. But up until 1965, when you got a Washington quarter, it was 90% silver. It looks just like the others. Has the eagle on the back, George Washington on the front, But again, when you come to the side of that coin, this one's probably going to show up better for you. And you look at it, you'll see the one on your left has the copper through it. The one on your right is 90% silver, and you can tell the difference. It shows up very obvious. And those were made for what years?
So for silver, it's 1932 to 1964, but the design in general is 1932 to date.
Yeah. Before we had the Washington quarter, we had the Liberty quarters. Standing liberties.
Which we tend to refer to as standing.
Yeah, you just hear us say standing. Okay, on the back of that has almost the same eagle flying that the flying cent has. Looks very similar. But anyway, we do find those pretty regularly.
Do you have a barber?
And no, I did not pull out a barber quarter.
Give me a second, I got one.
Okay, Katie's working
Actually, I
on
have
it.
two, but
While she is finding that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move to the next coin, which these used to be a very common coin that you would see in circulation.
this one's pretty worn.
Okay, she's got one. She has got a barber quarter here, which came before the Standing Liberties. It has the same design on the front that the Barber Dime does, and the back has the eagle. One variation, it has a bunch of stars above it. I can't tell you how many off the top of my head. But anyway, that is a barber quarter.
And those were 1892 to 1916. The
Okay.
standing were 1916 to 1930.
And then before the barber, you go to the seated. And you have years on that?
1838 to 1891.
Okay.
And then you go back to bust.
Okay, to capped bust. Okay, before that, or not before that, but the next variation we have are the half dollars. And they are still out there, and if you go to the bank, you can get a roll of half dollars, or you can get a half dollar. Up until up to 1970, there was some silver. I believe it was 40% up to 1970.
I would love to tell you, but that's one that this site does not
Okay.
have.
I believe it's up to 1970. It was 40%. 1964 and back was the
Silver.
the Kennedy, and it is silver.
64 is actually the only full year Kennedys were started in 1964.
You can see that it is silver.
So if you find 1964 Kennedy, it's the only one that'll be silver.
Hang on to it. Okay, before that, we had the Franklin half, and they're kind of a cool half. Franklin on the front, and guess what's on the back? The cracked Liberty Bell. Okay, and the Franklins are something that you don't find a lot metal detecting around here anyway. And the years on those?
1948 to 1963.
And before that, we had the Walking Liberty, and they're a cool half. We have come up with a couple of these. So if you hear us talk about a Walker, it's a Walker half dollar, and then on the back it has the eagle. Okay, what's the years on those, Katie?
1916 to 1947.
And before that, there was the Barber half, and it has that same front on it, and the back of it has the eagle with a lot of stars above it, and that is a Barber half. And the other denomination, which I think most of you guys will...
1892 to 1915
Okay.
is the date.
Okay, and before that was the Seated Liberties
Seated.
again.
And then bust, and then flowing hair.
Okay, and then we're going to go to the silver coin most people think about, and that's the half dollar. And the only or the dollar, the silver dollar. The only one we have to show you is a Morgan, which Morgans are highly collectible. You can buy them in all different kinds. You can get them in uncirculated, and you can get them clear down to just pretty junky coins. But they are pretty cool. It has that on the front and an eagle on the back. And I have not found a silver dollar metal detecting to this point, but Anyway, anything
So,
else?
Morgans were 1878 to 1921. After that, you'll find the peace dollar as the other silver dollar after that, from 1921 to 1935. And of course, previous to Morgan's, there are other ones, including a seated Liberty design.
Okay. And we haven't even begun to cover everything that's out there. The U.S. has minted a lot of different coins, and it's really kind of cool to study it and look at it. Anything else, or?
Did we want to go over some of the other denominations that are out
Okay.
there? Just mention them.
Okay.
So the U.S. minted half cents for a time. They minted 2-cent pieces for a time. We talked about the 3-cent pieces. We talked about nickels, and we briefly mentioned before that they did half dimes. We did dimes for a very, very brief period. They did 20-cent coin, but it was so similar to the quarter that they ended up discontinuing the design very quickly because people could not tell the difference easily enough. And then they also had some gold coins, which I will get to those denominations in a minute here. So they had gold dollars, which are quite small. They had what they call quarter eagles, which is 2.5 cent gold coin. For
$2.50.
$2.50. For another type of gold coin they made for a short time was a $3 gold piece. They also made a $4 gold piece for a very short time. Those are also known as a stella. And then they had what they call half eagles, which are $5 gold pieces, eagles, which are $10 gold pieces, and double eagles, which were $20 gold pieces.
One other coin we didn't mention that we have found is a Susan B. Anthony dollar. I can't tell you the year those were made. But they're
79 to 99.
Yeah, 79 to 99, and they're not pure silver either. They're a clad coin. When we say clad, they're a mixture of copper and silver. So I think that kind of wraps up what we wanted to tell you guys. Hopefully.
Did you want to talk about mint marks?
Oh, yes, we were going to talk about mint marks too, because we will throw that out there at times too. We'll say like it's a 1935D, which is the Denver Mint, or a 1935S, which is San Francisco. It's got a CC on it. It's Carson City. P is Philadelphia. O is a New Orleans Mint. There were, and I think those are mainly gold coins that had a mint from a Georgia.
Yes, those are a D, and it's, I'm not even going to,
Yeah.
I'll say it wrong.
Have I missed any of the mints that you can think of?
So that was gold coins only. Also, there is a C for Charlotte, North Carolina. That was also gold coins only.
Okay.
And then sometimes, if there is no mint mark, it's Philadelphia as well.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully we've given you guys a little bit to think about. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope now when you watch our other videos or anybody else's metal detecting video, you may have a little more grasp of what's there. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.